And joining us to have this conversation this morning is the very astute Harry Udo, who is the chairman, Akwa Ibom State Civil Society Organizations Forum. Good morning, sir, and welcome.
Good morning, Oyai. Good morning, Janice. Great to be here with you this morning. A Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah, compliments of the season.
A prosperous and healthful New Year ahead.
Yeah.
And same to all watchers. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, great one, great one. We do hope that your holidays have been good.
Yeah, it's it's ironic somewhat. It's called the holidays, right? But you have all these activities that you need to also meet as part of the holidays. You know, some festivities, church programs, social engagements, marriages, burials. So you sometimes wonder, was it really a holiday or some break for you to have parties on end?
Right. Okay.
Okay, so let's look at some projections now by the World Bank. Aside from what I said from the beginning as an introduction to the discourse, the World Bank is also saying that by 2030, 18 million Nigerians will be out of job or out of full-time job. Now, where does this take us to as a country?
Well, it's a good thing that we are getting that report now, and that's something that the World Bank has been doing over time. The last of such updates on our economy was in June, where they talked about especially some of our policies like the dual exchange rate being an albatross for the economy and all of that. So it's a good thing that they've looked at these, and it's not new, it's there. We've discussed it, we've seen some of the indices that indicate that things are going to get worse, except the government decides to take very proactive actions to ensure that they stem the tide. We talked about here earlier on, the adverse effect of COVID-19 on the world economy. We even looked at the reactions of other other national governments to that pandemic and how they help, to buffer their citizens in such a way that they didn't quite feel the adverse effect as we are feeling in the country. And we concluded that the country hasn't taken enough steps to ensure that they protect the citizens in ways that would help the economy to grow faster. And so we've had this recession, even where the government came out and said, oh, we've come out of recession. Some of us were like, look, you need to be a little bit more careful. We really haven't come out of recession. The growth rate is not significant enough for us to rejoice. So you find that there are certain basic things that report talked about. Still again, the dual exchange rate, the adverse effect of COVID-19, where steps hasn't been taken. It talked about the fact that even the agriculture that we project as one of the ways out of poverty shows that except we do certain things about it, if we just continue like in growing crops without valorization, for instance, then what you will find is that it will still remain at a peasant level and not enough to create wealth. So we need to look at issues around that as well. Look at issues around this being the issue of in-work poverty, which is where your take-home really doesn't take you beyond the gate of the company where you work or the business where you work. So that in-work poverty where your earnings cannot enable you to meet your basic needs has been high in the country and has been going on. There's the issue also of inflation. That report tells us, and not as if we didn't know, that the inflation rate in Nigeria is the highest globally. All right, when we're seeing it move from 6% in 2019 to 21.1% in December 2022. And that's so if you look at that and see what it's doing for the individuals, the 5,000 naira that you used to cook a pot of soup before can't afford a pot of soup today because things as basic as okra has shot up pepper has shot up, and so people can know. I went to a grocery shop. This lady that sells vegetables close to our estate, and I said I needed a bell pepper, and she brought 3 for 200 naira, 3 bell peppers for 300 naira, and I was for 200 naira. I was like, whoa. And what about those who earn 10,000 naira? So they wouldn't cook with bell pepper. That's what it means, So things have shot up. The inflationary rate has adverse effect on the economy, and then you look at that. There is no conscious effort to put in place things that would help to stimulate the economy. The government is not spending wisely, spending in such a way, but at the national level and at the subnational level, they are not spending in ways that should boost the economy. All right, they are not, when they give contracts, they give contracts in such ways without thinking of the effect on the populace. There's no focus on the youthful population. Nigeria has over 65% youth in the country. This state, for instance, has close to 70% of youth. And so when you look at that population, and you look at that we churn out about 3.5 million graduates every year, where are they going to work? We've not done anything that supports businesses to stabilize and to grow. Whereas in other nations, what, for instance, the US did was to support certain companies within the economy so that they sustain themselves, so that they can stand, so that they can now be able to employ more people. When those companies grow, the more they grow, the more they will need people, to work with them. And the governments do that to ensure that they have people who are working. And it's a win-win, because you have more people working, you have more people paying tax to government, and that boosts the wealth basket. So it's a gloomy outlook, and it would look like a prediction that will come true, except something happens within the next couple of years.
Before we even talk about what is going to happen within the next couple of years, what is even more frightening, I think some months ago, it was said that 133 million Nigerians live under the poverty line. And just to add to what the UN, the World Bank is saying, in addition to 80 million Nigerians losing their jobs come 2030. They're also saying that an additional 23 million Nigerians will also be living in extreme poverty. Now, it's quite frightening. You just gave an example of you going to buy 3 bell peppers for 200 naira. Now, what is the acting fast? Because the World Bank is also saying, except the government acts fast. What is this acting fast that the government should be doing, and when do we start doing this acting fast?
I don't know the acting fast that this government can do, because number one, you want to look at focusing on entrepreneurs, looking at micro, small, and medium enterprises to boost their productivity, boost their effort. You need to ensure that there is power. Look, the cost of fuel is further messing up the economy. Today we are buying fuel at 275 naira in Akwa Ibom State, and you find that government hasn't said anything. I think the government should be feeling, that how are my citizens surviving with that? Because fuel controls everything. All right, it controls the production of whatever is being produced. It controls, you're generating your own electricity, generating electricity to pump your own water and stuff like that. So it controls everything, and that's why prices of things have gone a bit high in the state, not just here, everywhere else. But what the government needs to do is to look at medium or micro, small, and medium enterprises to immediately begin to find ways to revamp that sector and get them to be productive and get them to be running at optimum level. We need to look for ways to begin to pursue the valorization of agriculture. So you're cultivating cassava. What can we get out of cassava? Not just the gari and the fufu, the starch that comes with it, and the other pharmaceutical elements that could come out of that. All right. So we need to begin to look at that. We need to look at immediately create a social safety net that will stop people from falling further down. You know, that's the social safety net would look at vulnerable families and support them genuinely. We talked about it here sometime. The federal government came up with that. In some states, that has been messed up. In this state, that has been completely messed up. Is a shame. You don't want to even get into that. What has happened within that in this state, and the states don't even have their own social safety net program.
If it's totally messed up in the state, sorry for quoting you short, then why is the same government that has given out those funds for social net programs, you know, not try to see how they can prosecute those that have actually messed things up? Because it's penny wise, pound foolish. When the government gives so much money to try to see how they can take people out of poverty, and then these things are not implemented properly.
Let me tell you something. I even had to personally, by my powers as the chairman of society organizations in the state, had to petition the ICPC concerning a certain individual that had to do, first of all, we wrote to the individual. And then what he did was to send a letter to all of the security agencies in the states that I was threatening civil unrest. All we said to him is that monies are paid into the bank of certain persons for this program. So the people receive the notification that this money has come in. Then there's a sort of lien. They cannot access the money. Then a week later, the money vanishes from the account. You must know what is wrong with it. Send the money back, you know. And then so he writes to all the security agencies. I was invited by, at least two of them invited me. The DSS invited me, you know, and of course the ICPC invited me. Then I had to now petition the ICPC, you know, asking that they should take that up. All right. So at some point, the ICPC people were asking me to give them certain information about the fellow that they could find themselves. So you don't put me out there. You have everything. You can walk into anywhere and ask for information. Why should it be me that should provide certain information about this fellow? Okay. You know, and that's where we are at that. Sometimes it's quite difficult. You know, corruption has assumed a dimension in this country that, except we take some drastic steps, you know, we are heading towards Venezuela, we are heading towards Zimbabwe, we are heading towards Mozambique, where you would take, what do they call that thing, wheelbarrow of money to buy a loaf of bread, you know, except we take critical action. And that's why I was saying we need to look at January, February presents opportunity for us to look at this again and be sure of what we are doing. Because you would expect, like you said, for government to prosecute. Look at the lady who is the humanitarian minister not being aware of an insertion in the budget that you sent to the National Assembly. That tells you a lot. That tells you a lot. And this has happened with this ministry since this lady came on repeatedly. You know, and then nothing is happening to the lady herself. What do you think will happen to the people down the rung of the ladder?
So right? I was even going to come to the issue of budget, because I think as part of all these issues we are talking about, we also have policies, you know, at the bedrock of all of this. Now we have been looking at, you know, the appropriation bill coming up, and it was shifted till Thursday to be revisited at, you know, the Houses of Assembly. We are looking at the fact that even the supplementary budget that is meant for 2023 is going to be causing a lot of problems for the economy of Nigeria, and it's going to be causing a lot of problems for Nigerians. So one will keep wondering, how do we sit down and create and fabricate these policies, economic policies that always come back to bite us as a people? Not forgetting, Sahari, the fact that the new Naira that has been reeled out, we haven't even come into the belly of the problem that is going to bring, just coming off at the end of the year. So we just have a lot of things that we are battling with as a nation. So let's even look a little into the budgetary plans for, you know, next year also.
before I get there, one of the things you're talking about policy, and the budget is the singular most important policy document of government.
Yeah.
Part of that report that the World Bank, the update that the World Bank just put out, talked about policy inertia. All right, so it's the knee-jerk approach to the things that we have done, the policy somersaults that we've had. So you take this decision, then you come back with another that counters the first one that
Absolutely.
you did. That has stalled so many things, and you find that different entities of government are coming up with all kinds of decisions that would contradict what the other agent of government has come up with that look to have been good, but that is being frustrated. You look at the monetary policy of the central bank recently, carrying that out without the knowledge of the one who's supposed to be in charge, who is the boss of the central bank, Governor, if you permit, the Minister of Finance. These are some of the things that have led to the debacle that Nigeria is today. And so when you look at the budget, take the national budget for instance, with the deficit that is coming in. This is the budget where over 6 trillion has been budgeted for petroleum subsidy, and I'm still buying fuel at 275. And look at what that we just came up from one of the days that Janice called. We were in Abuja for the National Tax Summit, where we've seen where policies of government that was made and meant to help the economy has been so abused that it is part of the reason why our economy is in such a mess today. And so where are you going to get the funding from? This report, like we said, like we discussed that some time ago here, it shows that one of the reasons why inflation has been up is because the central bank has been using ways and means, to augment the deficit, the national deficit, the public deficit. All right, so you don't have they print more money.
Yeah.
They print more money, and that printing of more money has put so much money out in the circulation. So they come up with a policy on this hand to try to stem the flow of cash. Then they print money for the government to spend. You remember the governor of Edo State said the money we were paid, given this that was shared, was from ways and means. Money is printed. You don't do that without any backing for it. All right. When you do that, then it bastardizes the economy. So when you look at the budget that has been put out by the federal government, the supplementary budget in itself, the level of borrowing, for instance, here in this state, a bill was sent to the House to say, look, we need to create a loan agency, a loan office that borrows money ad infinitum. They borrow the money, and 25% of the revenue will be used to service the debt. So they can borrow money that would put this state in debt for another 100 years. They have that power to do whatever they like with that. All right, and then they use 25% of the revenue of the state to service that. Money that would have gone to building entrepreneurs, to supporting entrepreneurship. I've said here before, one of the things that helped Spain and the state of Catalonia in Spain, which is where Barcelona is the capital, coming out of the war. They were at war for when I was a child. All right, so by 1999 they broke out peace, and then they got facility from the European Union to begin to boost the economy. And one of the things that they did to boost the economy, as at 2005, when I went there for the first time, it had one of the highest standard of living. Barcelona had one of the highest standard of living in Europe, higher than Switzerland and Sweden, that had been enjoying peace for a long time.
Just between 1999 and 2005.
And 2005. What did they do? They focused on that. They had a place they called the Barcelona Activa that empowered citizens to be able to set up businesses, and they gave grants. And then they paid, if you employed 2 people, they had a pool of unemployed. If you employ from that pool of unemployed, they gave you the salary to pay those people for a period of time until you break even. And I saw businesses that had graduated from the Activa that were doing 15 million euros per annum turnover. So that's a government that is focused on helping the people. Now here, the taxes that we are collecting would be enough to fund our budget. but the leakages within the system is so terrible that it's not enough, to do that. So we go a borrowing.
So let's even talk about leakages, because once President Muhammadu Buhari came in 2015, the slogan that we knew him for was the change, especially against corruption in Nigeria, and we saw him fighting, to recover monies that people had stashed away in other countries. And in the first few years of his, entering into office, we usually would hear the announcement of, okay, so amount of millions of trillions were recovered from so person in so country. But so far so good. We do not have a breakdown, a coherent breakdown of all these monies that have been recovered so far. So all of these monies that have been recovered, where are they and what have they been using them for? Because we have recovered money in trillions that can actually service the budget of our country for at least a couple of years without going borrowing. So what exactly is happening in this space?
I think the person that should be answering that would be a number of persons: the finance minister, the attorney general, the federation, guys from the central bank themselves, and from the EFCC. All right, you would have heard at some point where it was said that the recovered loot have been re-looted, and that led to the head of a certain Mago rolling. All right, and there are all kinds of controversies around him being scapegoated there. All right, so but the clear thing was that those recovered monies had been looted. Now, some of the monies that came, especially from the Abacha loot, the agreement with the nations that were releasing that money, that it was to be used to service the vulnerable. All right, for social safety net programs, and that's why the government set up the Ministry of Humanitarian Services to handle that. And that's how the school feeding program came up. That had, that's one of the best policies that this government had put out, but that had failed woefully from inception. All right, because that policy itself, that program, had a multiplier effect. All right, of boosting people who are farming, all right, engaged in one type of farming vegetables, poultry farm, because they were supposed to give those children eggs and put eggs in their food and all of that, and then to get some persons at the rural level employed who will be vendors, providing food within the schools, and then it was going to also help to boost schools intake. Take for instance, Akwa Ibom has the second largest number of out of school children. That failed in this state. That failed. I told you, petitioning someone, that is the program with petition that has failed. Recently they paid some people, now they pay some people and they don't pay some others. That's what they've been doing, and those people they pay don't even provide the food. So you find out that policy messed up, and like Janice asked, why are they not being prosecuted? Why are they not being prosecuted? Are they not aware that this is not happening? Who is doing the oversight, all right, of monitoring to ensure that the school feeding program is going on? Who's doing that? No one is doing that, all right? So that ministry, that money that was supposed to serve that has in itself been looted. You remember there was, during the COVID lockdown, and the minister said they had spent so much in feeding. So the question was, did you go to the people's houses to go feed them when there was lockdown and school wasn't in session? So corruption is at the basis of all of these things, and the fact that there is no genuine commitment from the part of government to ensure that the resources that we have are managed in such a way that is beneficial to everyone in the country.
All right, now because of time, our time is fast spent now. The World Bank is also, trying to advise for future occurrences. Structural transformation and job creation should be one of those things that the government would put forward to make sure that we do not have this, data being realistic by 2030. Now we are moving to an election season. There are just a lot of projections, in terms of whether it's employment, in terms of security, in terms of even the educational sector, infrastructural sector as well. Now, what are your projections for 2023 as we move forward?
In terms of the politics, in terms of the economy, because right now politics affects the economy. Number one, first of all, when the World Bank talks about the structural adjustment that needs to be done, I need to point out also very quickly, before I go into that, that one of the reasons for that projection of 80 million in 2020 is
2030.
2030, sorry, being out of work, being unemployed, has to do with what is known as structural unemployment. Not available skills for available jobs. All right. And so one of the things that government needs to do is to find ways of equipping, and skilling, skilling people. All right, with the kind of jobs that are available today. You need people who know. We are now in the Internet of Things, so you need people who are conversant with the Internet of Things to be able to handle such jobs. If you don't find those, then eventually those 80 million would be unemployed.
Because they have also said that even that the projection now is for in-job people. So you can be in a job. Yes, you can be in a job, but you're unemployed.
Yes. You understand?
Yes.
And that's why they talked about in-work poverty
yes,
as well.
So
we need to find ways of skilling people up, providing those skills that would enable people to be able to handle jobs in the future.
What I even want to ask in terms of this employment and unemployment ratio is we've been having a lot of lauding of entrepreneurs. People are beginning to do a lot of things, with their hands, and we're having MSMEs and all of those things built up. Doesn't that also count as, some measure of people getting, employed, although they are self-employed? Because we're looking at 80 million, we're looking at high ratios, but we have a lot of Nigerians beginning to do things for themselves, do businesses. How is the World Bank, or how are we even balancing out all of these things?
So the government needs to be able to look at those people and find ways of supporting them and bringing them into the net. If they are not within the net of employed, they won't be counted as employed. So what we need to do in terms of ensuring that they are part of the tax net, ensuring that they are part of those that are that the government supports them. These individuals that are doing little things get the support of government so that they can be established properly. That will go a long way to help. And so looking at 2023, we need to, number one, it depends on who we elect, because the confidence, one of the things that will help boost the economy is the confidence in the leadership. And so if you elect the kind of leadership that the people don't have confidence in, external investors will go away. Don't forget that this World Bank analysis, it may not hold meaning for Nigerians. It holds meaning a lot for the people who need to come in and spend their money here. All right. So when they see those doubts, when they see those fears that are there as highlighted, and they are not seeing concrete steps being taken, what you would find is that they will keep their monies with them. There are private investors, capitalists who are looking for opportunities to make investments and then pull out afterwards. So we need to look at that. Number two, we need to we need to see very quickly that we look at our agricultural system and create a value chain that would generate the kind of employment that we need and will add the kind of value to the economy. So we need to see valorization in 2023. But if we choose wrongly, what we find, number one, the price of fuel will shut up. By mid 2023, we might be buying fuel for 400 naira, 500 naira. Okay, except the Dangote refinery comes in, and that's not a guarantee, because don't forget, it will now be a monopoly.
Yeah.
All right. So, so we're looking to see fuel at 400 naira, 500 naira. We are looking to see in 2023, except something drastic happens, the inflation rate shooting higher than it is right now. And if you are not careful, it will lead to some level of unrest. That also being dependent on who wins the election. All right. If the unpopular person wins, then there might be unrest somewhere along the line in 2023 because the confidence is not there. and the people are not going to be able to bear the bite of the economy on them, and you have these kinds of things going on.
Okay, thank you so much, Harry Dennis Odor, Chairman, Akwa Ibom State Civil Society Organizations Forum. Thank you so much for your time with us on set this morning, but we are going to be closing the show with you on set.
Of production.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you too to all those that called in and those that tried to call in. Tomorrow is yet another day for us to give you another blockbuster on the show Rise and Shine Daily. My name is Janice Cobham. Do have a great day.